Hi everyone! Well, top of my list of easy to grow herbs is chives. They're virtually indestructible. They're perennial in zones 3 through 9. They grow well in cool weather, but also grow through hot weather and add a delicious kind of mild onion flavor to soups, stews, baked potatoes, and salads. Now you can plant them from seed as we did a few weeks ago in our kitchen garden video, or you can divide chives that you already have in your garden for an endless supply. I mean, who wouldn't love an endless supply of chives? You'll have free plants all over your garden, a lot to share with friends, and you can even grow them indoors so you have them right at your fingertips all throughout the wintertime. Now, why in the world would you want to divide the chives in your garden? Well, let me show an example with the chives here that I've had growing all summer long. Now, they really do thrive in the cooler temperatures of winter here in Southern California, or in the spring and fall if you live in a more northern climate. But you can tell here after growing in the summer heat, they've just kind of lost their oomph. So dividing them every couple of years not only spreads them out through your garden, it breathes new life in the plants. And of course, we're going to be dividing all these tiny little chives here, which gives you lots and lots of free plants. So let me just show you how easy it is. Now this little pot of chives I have growing indoors, and you can see they're definitely ready to harvest. That's actually the first step to dividing your chives, is to harvest the tops. Now the cool thing about chives is they grow right back as soon as you snip the tops. So I'm going to snip these today inside, and we'll see new growth within a couple of weeks. And the same thing applies to your outdoor plants. So with most herbs, the more you harvest, the more they grow. And right now I have 2 clumps of chives here growing. So we're going to divide clumps that are about 6 inches in diameter. These are probably 3 or 4 inches in diameter, but they're definitely overcrowded in here. So these are prime for dividing. So the first step is I'm going to grab my chives and snip off the top. I love giving my chives a little haircut, don't you guys? And it's always fun to see the brand new growth. So I've got about 3 to 4 inches of growth left here on the bottom. These we're going to save to bring into the house to have with our scrambled eggs for breakfast. And the next step is to dig up your clump to prepare them for dividing. So what I'm going to do is dig a wide circle around the plant, being careful not to disturb the roots and the tiny little bulbs of the chive plant. So I'm just getting my shovel in here, just loosening up the soil. The soil is nice and loose, so it's going to be really easy to lift this clump right out, but you definitely want to loosen up your soil. Then once you've got a nice little circle loosened up, you're going to want to get your shovel in here and then just gently lift the clump out. So you want to make sure you get your shovel kind of under the clump and gently lift it out, doing your best to leave the little bulbs and the roots intact. Chives are a super, super tough plant, so you don't have to be too concerned about damaging it. And here it comes. A few little weeds in there too. I'm just going to set it right here in the tray, and then we'll divide it. First step, trim your chives, which you've already done. Second step is dig up the plant. The third step is to divide the clump up. So here we're just going to gently shake off the soil, get these weeds out of the way. And you can see there's teeny tiny little bulbs here, which are called bulblets. I love that name for them, don't you guys? And we're just going to shake off the soil as best we can here. And then we're going to divide the clump up into groups of 3 or 4 tiny little bulblets. So we'll just pull them apart. Super tough plants, so you don't even have to be too terribly gentle with them. And these are going to be our brand new chive plants. They're going to spread out throughout our garden. I just want to tell you guys, the aroma of these fresh cut chives is so, so amazing, and you're going to love having an endless supply all over your garden. Now you can see here I left a little empty space here where my chives were growing. The cool thing is I could do the exact same thing with this clump and just spread them out throughout this little space here, so that they're not overcrowded and will grow you some fresh new plants. but these we're going to plant in another area of the garden. So let me go show you how to do that. Now I really like growing chives as a little edging plant. They make a really nice border for your garden beds. And in the springtime, they start to bloom, which makes beautiful flowers that are edible, and it brings in the pollinators like crazy too. And if you live in a warm winter climate like I do here in Southern California, now is a perfect time to divide your chives. But even if you live in a cold winter climate, you can divide them right before it gets really cold in your area, and they will take a freeze. They might die back during the winter, but then once the spring comes, you're going to see some fresh new growth. So what I'm going to do to transplant my chives, the fourth step, is to plant them in the garden or in a container. So I'm just going to dig a hole here, actually a little trench, for my chive plants right along the edge of this garden bed. I just pulled out a whole bunch of zucchini and things that were just past their prime here this week. So it leaves a nice little empty spot for my nice little new edging of chives here. So just loosen up the soil. And the great thing about chives is they're not picky. They grow in poor soil. You just want to amend your soil a little bit with some worm castings or some fresh compost. So I'm going to add some of the vermisteria worm castings in here, and that'll really just help get the roots growing again and give them a nice fresh start. All right, so I've got my little garden bed dug here. Now what I'm going to do is pop my chive plants right here into this little trench. And you want to dig a hole big enough so that your roots can kind of spread out here in the hole. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of feather the roots out a little bit. And these are going to make brand new chive clumps. So I'm going to lay out my chives, kind of spreading them apart. And then you want to bury the bulblets and the roots with soil up to the green part of the stem. So just stand these little babies up and fill it in. And they're probably going to droop over for a couple of days, even maybe a couple of weeks even, until they take root. And like I said, in a cold winter climate, they're going to die back. But don't be alarmed. As long as you live in zone 3 or higher, they're going to pop right back in the fall. If you don't know your zone, that's a good idea as a gardener to know that. I'll put a link to the USDA hardiness zones in the video description so you can enter your zip code and find out which zone that you're growing in. Here in California, I am in zone 9B. Now another thing you can do with your freshly divided chive clumps is plant them in a little container and bring them inside to keep them in your indoor garden for the winter. So you're going to plant them in pretty much the same way. I'm going to poke some little holes in the container here. You want to choose a container that's about 6 inches deep. This is one of the Smart Pots transplanters, so it works really well for indoor growing. And you're just going to stick your little chive plants right in the hole, covering up the little bulblet and the roots. You're going to take these inside, pop them under a grow light or on a sunny windowsill, and you'll have chives indoors all winter long. So now I'm just going to water my newly divided chive clumps with the Good Dirt plant food, vermisteria worm tea. Get them off to a good start here. We want some good new leafy growth. You don't want to harvest your chives for a couple of weeks. You want to make sure that you do see some new growth from them and make sure that the roots are good and established before you harvest. Just going to soak them down really well. And if you're expecting rain, you can just let the rain do the work for you, and they'll green up and you're going to see some new growth in no time. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to divide chives so you can grow an endless supply in your garden. Plenty of chives to eat, plenty of chives for gifts. They are such an easy herb to grow. So let me know if you'll be trying it, and if you need seeds, grab my herb seed collection over at CaliKimGardenandHome.com. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video.